what's up? Let's talk about how we write systems from stories. Okay, here we go. 4 examples. Example A, pre-orders for the yearbook cost $38 each, while the full price costs $45 each. If 24 students in Mr. Hillman's homeroom purchased yearbooks for a total of $975, how many students pre-ordered and how many bought their yearbook at full price? Okay, so there's a whole organization to this. Like, math is cool when you can organize your thoughts, kind of put things together, because this is one story, but there's 2 stories within the big story, right? So the first thing that I want to do is identify my variables. What does it not give me? So I'm going to add a little note here off to the side. When we define the variables, look at what the question wants you to find. Because whatever it's asking you to find, determine, calculate, that is what you don't know, right? So that's your variable right now. So whatever it asks you to find. So when I come back up here, I read through, skimming, and then I see this, how many students pre-ordered? Well, hey, who knows? Because that's what they're asking me to find. And then it says how many paid full price. So those are the 2 things that I don't know. I don't know how many students pre-ordered. I don't know how many paid full price. So we're going to say X is going to be the number that pre-ordered, and then Y will be the number that paid full price. Okay, so I'm going to start setting up my table here. So I have number that pre-ordered, then I have the number that paid full price is my Y. Right, and this third column, we're just going to leave that our totals. Okay, so I'm starting to organize, starting to think about this, find out what's going on. So for the matchup, when we're creating this table, because we need to put like all the stuff that goes with one story together and all the stuff that goes with another story in the other part of this, right? So when we're doing the matchup, what I have found helpful is if I look for 2 different totals first. Okay, because if I can find the totals, then it's a matter of like, well, what did I add together to create that total, right? And so that's what you're looking for in here. When we talk total, you're thinking, when I read the story, I'm putting things together. So what are the things that go together that create a total amount here, right? So when I go and I read through, this, I'm like, hey, it tells me that I have a total, that it was a total of $975. So there's one total, so I'll put that in my first row. And then we look for another one, and you might think it's 38 or 45, but those are what you put together to get this total of $975, because it's $38 each, $45 each. That's not a total because I don't know how much each is, right? So here, though, I have there's 24 students in Mr. Hillman's homeroom. Okay, so we have all these students in there. That's my other total. Okay, so I'm going to use that to help me. So this row is talking about prices because I know that's money right there. So anything in my story that's about prices is probably going to go with this total here. And then this one is the 24 students, so it's what I count, right? So number of students right there. And so we got to figure out what happens that this goes, okay? So I go and I look, let's see the prices. What prices do we know? So I go back and I look at my story, and pre-orders for the yearbook cost $38 each. Well, there's one cost, right? So I put that with the pre-order number. So it's $38 for each kid who bought it. So times X, right? X just represents the word instead of having to keep writing it. And then the full price, I go back and look, well, the full price costs $45 each. There's my other price that goes with it. So I put 45 times however many students, end up doing that, okay? All right, so cool. We have that first part taken care of. And now we have to look, okay, how did I get 24 students? What am I adding together? So I look at my story and I'm like, there's no other numbers. What the heck, right? If there's no other numbers, most of the time that just means we're adding the 2 groups together, right? Because I'm counting this. It's not a value. It's not a cost or a price this time. It's numbers I'm adding together, and I don't know what they are, right? I don't, those are literally what my variables are. I don't know. So it's X number who pre-ordered, and then I have a group of kids who paid full price. When I add those two groups together, it's 24. So all this thinking goes into it. You have to be able to decipher, pull pieces together. What did I add to get that? What variables represent that, right? Because once you've got that table, which is the hardest part, once you can figure out all the pieces that talk to each other, then your equations are easy because we're just going to use the table, right? Right there. It literally is giving you the answers. If I just look across this row, it tells me when I add the money from the pre-orders and the money from the full price, I got $975, right? Read it with meaning, and then it's not as mysterious. The 38 X, which is the pre-orders, and then the price, the money, if I can type right, that would help, is the money from the full price, gets us 975. And then my second equation is that second row. If I add the pre-orders plus the full, that was 24 students. So who had paid early, who paid full price, gives us 24 students altogether. Okay, that's it. We're writing a system. We have two equations that work together gives us a system. Okay, so let's try it again. Angelina has a collection of nickels and dimes worth $4.65. If she has 70 nickels and dimes, how many of each does she have? Okay, so remember, defining the variables means what do I need to find? Right, so that's what I'm looking for. So I look at my question and it says, how many of each? Okay, that means I don't know it. That's what I go hunting for. How many of each? So I don't know how many nickels. I don't know how many dimes. Okay, so I'm going to fill in my table. And that third column is always my total. Okay, so remember when we get here to the matchup, find the totals first. Okay, so we're going to go look, find the totals. So I see, hey, I know that all together they're worth $4.65. So I'm going to put that in here. And then I look and it says she has 70 nickels and dimes. So that's another total amount of coins this time, right? So let me color that different. All right, so this is 70 coins. Okay, so again, we have money. So this is going to be the value of my coins. And this bottom one is just the total number of coins. So we're looking at the numbers. Let's start in that row since we're right here. Numbers, it's just like with our students, right? They add up to 24. Well, I have nickels and dimes that add to 70. So I'm going to add X plus Y dimes gets me 70 coins altogether. Okay. This other row, the value, notice my word problem, it doesn't have anything else in it. There's no other numbers. That's because we're assuming that you know the value of a nickel and a dime. Okay, so the value, every nickel in my collection is worth 5 cents, 0.05, not 0.5. Okay, every dime that I have is worth 10 cents, 0.1 times however many dimes I have. That would be the value of my dimes. This one's the value of my nickels. Okay, once we're here, we go row by row. Okay, so if I add the value of my nickels plus the value of my dimes, that gets me $4.65. Then I look at my second one for the total number of coins. Well, add up the nickels plus the dimes equals 70. So notice I'm reading it with words. Give it meaning. If you can read it with words and it tells you the same story, boom, good, I got it. If it doesn't match up with your story, like rethink how you label things and where you put numbers. Right? So it should make sense. Everything we write in math, it has meaning. Give it meaning, give it meaning, give it meaning. All right, here we go. Example C. 3 apples and 4 bananas cost $4.85. 3 apples and 10 bananas cost $8.75. What's the cost of 1 apple and 1 banana? Okay, defining the variables, we look at what it asks us to find. So it says, what's the cost of 1 apple? So that means, hey, I don't know that. Okay, and the cost of 1 banana. There's the other thing I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to put X is the cost of an apple and y will be the cost of a banana. So we fill this in. Apple is my x value, and the cost of banana is my y value. I'm going to stretch my table here a little bit. Okay, and then I have my total. Okay, so cool. Now when we get to our table setup, look for your totals. I went shopping twice. Okay, so the first time I went, I spent $4.85 altogether. The second time I went, I spent $8.75 altogether. Okay, so I have $4.85 and I have $8.75. Okay, we can say trip 1 and trip 2, or combo 1, combo 2, whatever makes you happy, somehow to tell myself there's different stories here. Okay, all right, so now let's go look at the first trip. First trip, bought 3 apples and 4 bananas. Awesome, to get that $4.85. So the cost of 3 apples plus the cost of 4 bananas is $4.85. Then I go look at my second story. I bought 3 apples and 10 bananas for $8.75. So the cost of 3 apples plus the cost of 10 bananas is $8.75. Once I've got it organized, go row by row. Okay, so row by row, find the costs and then what story goes with that. What are the pieces you added together to get to that total? Okay, so let's look at example D. I'm just going to spread that to the next page because it makes my brain happy for it to be all together. Boy Scouts are selling popcorn at the parade to raise money for their camping trip. Ethan sold 9 small bags and 2 large bags and made $36.05. Jack sold 5 small bags and 7 large bags and made $48. Find the cost of a small and large bag of popcorn. There's what I don't know. That's what it's telling me to find. Okay, so we have the cost of a small, we have the cost of a large, and we create our table. And that last column is always the total. Go find the totals. Well, look, we have Ethan and Jack. Okay. Oh, I'm actually going to back up. I know that my 2 stories are about Ethan and Jack, so I'm going to look for what goes with who, right? So Ethan, right here, made $36.05, but Jack did a little bit better, made 48. Okay, so we have $36.05, we have 48. Now, what did they sell to get there? Okay, so Ethan sold 9 small and 2 large, while Jack sold 5 small and 7 large. Okay, and you go and you put that into your table. Once you have it in your table, boom, go row by row, and you have your 2 equations, okay? So how much he made from the small plus how much he made from the large ones gives him $36.05. And then for Jack, it's money from the small plus money from 7 large, gave him 48. Boom, there's our system of equations that works together. Okay, organize, think it through. You really got to process what's this double story within the big story.